I remember leaving our wedding venue, like we had our big send off, we had all the exciting things happen that day, and we were driving away, and I just sat there and I was like, that was 5.5 months of planning, and it's done. Hey everybody, my name is Caitlin, this is my husband,
Elijah.
And today we're going to share some of the tips that we got during engagement that were really helpful for us, and then also share some things that we wish we would have done differently. So we just celebrated our first year of marriage, and while engagement was fresh on the brain, we wanted to go ahead and film this video so that hopefully we can help somebody who's going through engagement and planning a wedding.
So if you're new here, we post content that's like newlywed content or newborn content. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, keep watching. Let's dive right in. Tip number 1 is talk about the unfun stuff early.
Something that was super helpful for our planning process throughout engagement was at the very beginning, probably a day or two after we were engaged, we sat down, we looked at our budget for our wedding, and we picked the top 3 priorities. And so for us, that was venue, photography. We wanted really great photos to be able to look back on. And then also, I don't know why this was my priority, but I really wanted cakes at every single table. It was very important for me at the time. And so anyways, those were the things that we knew were non-negotiable. And then from there, everything else we could talk about, we could have a conversation about, whether it was the size of our guest list. I got my dress on sale. And so things like that, we knew that we could kind of cut corners in those areas, but where our priorities were, that's what we were going to stick to as a couple.
Yeah. And I feel like that kind of goes into the second point we have. So once you talk through all the stuff and you kind of figure out what is important and what's not, then you're able to make a timeline. So that's our second point. And honestly, setting time-oriented goals for each item was really helpful for us. Instead of just trying to tackle everything at once, it was, okay, for the next 2 weeks, let's try to get your dress, or let's try to find our food vendor. So we're going to go taste test, or you're going to go try on dresses and stuff like that. So just tackling one thing at a time, but setting reasonable timelines too.
Yeah. I think that helped us to avoid our decision fatigue, because I knew that I had 2 weeks to really focus in on our venue, and we toured multiple places during those 2 weeks, then we made our decision. And some things took longer than 2 weeks, but we had looked at when we wanted to get married, when we would need certain things booked or reserved, and we kind of made a timeline for ourselves and set due dates for those items. And then we didn't have to make any giant decisions all in the same week. So we weren't trying to choose our food and our vendor and my dress all in the same week. We had it spaced out enough to where it wasn't overwhelming.
Yeah.
So tip number 3 is make your engagement short. Now, this was one of the top tips that we received whenever we were engaged, and honestly, I pass it on to everybody now.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like when we first heard that, we were like, what? And then we got engaged and we really understood it, because while you're engaged, it's just a waiting game, and you're just sitting there. You have stuff to do, but realistically, you
want to be married. That's why you're engaged.
You're so close to the end goal. So it's just oh my gosh, especially the last month or two, it's just very difficult, because you're you can just taste the wedding being there. So
yes. And so I think there's a couple reasons. First off, if you're waiting to sleep together until you're married, that's a big one. But if that's not even on your radar, A couple things that I also found is we saved a lot of money by having a short engagement because I didn't have time to change my mind about different things. And so, like, when I picked wedding colors, we had wedding colors and we ran with it. And then once we found, like, where we wanted the bridesmaids' dresses, that's what I sent out, like, that day. And it was things like that that were really helpful because I didn't have a lot of time to sit and overthink it to the point of eventually spending more money than we even needed to.
Our next point is planning for marriage and not the wedding.
Yeah.
The wedding is just one day, and you're going to be married for the rest of your life. So, going to the last point, just because you are doing a shorter engagement does not mean you should not be putting in some work during that time to set yourself up for success. So, that looks like reading books on how to have a great marriage, or listening to podcasts on people who've been married for several years and had a successful marriage.
Yeah, there are so many amazing free resources that are available for like that pre-marriage time. And so using your engagement to go on some really intentional dates, having really intentional conversations about like, hey, this is what I think about this. What do you think? And just planning your life together for marriage. Like, the wedding is one day, but marriage is every day after. And so really take time to plan for marriage, plan for life, because you're making a commitment for life and you want to be set up for success.
Yeah.
I remember leaving our wedding venue, like we had our big send off, we had all the exciting things happen that day. And we were driving away, and I just sat there, and I was like, that was 5.5 months of planning. And it's done. Like, that was our day. That was it. Now we have life together, which was exciting because we were ready for it. But at the same time, it made me realize how small the wedding day really is.
Our next point is finding mentors and going to get coffee with a mentor, dinner with a mentor. For us, it looked like we kind of just made like a hit list of some couples that we saw had great marriages. Some couples, they were raising their kids a certain way, and we were like, we want to raise our kids like that, so let's go get dinner and ask how they did that. Or one was you could tell they communicated really well.
It sounds really scary to ask somebody, especially if this isn't in your like normal rhythm of life, to go up and ask a couple to dinner, but it's so easy. And how we did it, some people we texted, some people we saw in person, but we said, hey, we really admire this about your relationship. Fill in the blank, whatever you admire about the relationship. Nobody has a perfect relationship, so you're not gonna find that, but like find somebody who, you know, you can tell they laugh together and say, hey, we really like how you obviously enjoy one another's company. We just want to know more about that. And then we wrote questions for each couple just to help alleviate some of that awkward silence, because that can be intimidating for both parties. And so we had like 3 questions.
Which I feel like most of the time we didn't even need to get through all of our questions, because typically like people are ready to pour into your marriage. Like people who are married are like, look, I've done this. I know what I'm doing. Yeah. And like they're ready to pour out.
Okay, and that brings us to tip number 6, which is set your expectations. Weddings bring out the crazy in people. They bring out the big emotions. And we saw this with family. We saw this with friends. We saw this with ourselves, because you have like this expectation of what it's going to look like. You have this expectation of how people are going to react to things. And sometimes people just don't react that way because of their own experiences, of what's happening in their life that is totally unrelated to your wedding. We just saw so many strange things happen in our relationships during engagement. And something I realized throughout that process was that I just needed to like set my expectations and realize that they're human and they're not always going to react the way that I want them to. I remember talking to a family friend close to the wedding, I don't know what we were talking about, to be completely honest. But they were like a little bit emotional. I was getting defensive because it was my wedding. And I realized, it just hit me. I said, hey, in a year from now, we're not going to even remember this. We're not going to care about, like, I think it was like the flowers or something. I could not tell you what it was. But I said, in a year from now, this isn't going to matter. So let's not affect our relationship over something that isn't actually important long term. And I mean, I'm sitting here today and I cannot remember what that was about, and I'm so glad that we didn't let that affect our relationship in any way.
And same thing with like day of, like it's gonna be very hectic. There's gonna be so many people. It's gonna be going every direction. If someone does something that like they say like a backhanded comment or they're wearing the wrong thing or something like that, like just know like it is a one day thing. Like, it's not, don't make it like a deal breaker for your relationship if someone makes a little mistake on your wedding day.
Right. And we do want to clarify, this is not giving an excuse for people to be able to act rude or insincere or, I mean, it's not an excuse for anybody to act completely out of line. And if that's what's happening, I would definitely encourage you to, again, talk to mentors and figure out like a good path forward with whoever that person is who's causing drama, because that's not right. But in the general sense, all the little things are going to like wash away in the future, and you're not even going to think about those things. Okay, so tip number 7 is talk about everything. All of it. All the awkward things that come up when you're getting ready to commit your life to somebody.
Yeah.
Talk about it. You want to dive more into that?
Yeah. So this looks like conflict, communication, expectations, intimacy, all of those kind of things. Typically, people have beliefs as they're growing up. And so really, you're two people becoming one. So you're going to have to either merge the beliefs together, or one person's going to have to sacrifice their beliefs. And it's very difficult to do this. It's probably the number one challenge when it comes to marriage, or at least like newly married. And so just talk through it. If the other person is not budging on something, try to figure out why. Try to figure out the emotions behind it and come see eye to eye with them.
Yeah. I mean, this goes for absolutely everything, between finances, between intimacy, and, I mean, household chores. Everybody is going to approach those topics with their previous life experience in mind.
Sometimes, like, with the beliefs and stuff like that, you get beliefs like, oh, they're doing this on purpose or something.
Yeah.
Or, like, they're almost, like, wronging me or something like that. And a lot of times it's like, oh, this is just a miscommunication. If we can have an awkward conversation, I think a lot of people don't like awkward conversations because there could be hurt feelings, or like it could make some things weird or something.
I mean, the reality is you're engaged to be married for life, and that is a really long time if you're under the age of 99. Yeah. And so, like, go ahead and have the conversations, because if this is the person that you want to live with for the rest of your life, it's worth having an awkward conversation to save many fights in the future, or many hurt feelings, or resentment building, because nobody wants to live like that. Well, we don't have it all figured out, but we hope that this is helpful in a really hectic season.
Yes, and if you've received any other kind of advice on engagement or anything like that, we would love if you just left a comment down below. And if you like the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe.
Yeah, we hope to see you next time. Bye.
Hey guys, so we are...
I was not ready. I don't know what I'm saying. I started second guessing myself as I'm saying the sentence, and then I go...
I do the same thing. I'm like, I'm gonna mess the next one up.